Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of You're More Than Your MS. Last week, I reviewed some of my favorite Netflix original shows. This week, I'm reviewing some of my favorite Hulu original shows. Let's start with a kick-ass superhero series called Marvel's Runaways. Hulu has aired the first season and has renewed the series for a second season. Runaway fans have been holding their collective breath ever since it was announced that Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage were adapting the Marvel comic series for TV. With Runaways, a pending rival on Hulu, those readers can breathe a sigh of relief. The Gossip Girl duos has done an amazing job of transcribing Runaways, varying from the source material in a wholly reverberable way. In the comics, school-age Alex, played by Renee Felix, Molly, played by Allegra Acosta, Carolina, played by Virginia Gardner, Chase, played by Greg Skulkin, Gertrude, played by Ariella Barr, and Nico, played by Lucretia Ocano, are friends who've gone their separate ways, having hung out together only because their parents were friends. One night, they discover that their parents have not only pals, but ringleaders of a dangerous cabal called the Pride, which leads the kids to go on the lam, while they plot to defeat their supervillain parents. Meanwhile, their own special powers begin to emerge, from mutant super strength to psychic links to a dinosaur. Abilities teased in the Hulu series' clever opening title sequence. As engaging as they are, the Runaways comics are probably better suited to a 3-hour movie in order to meet the demands of an ongoing TV series. Schwartz and Savage sketched out Brian K. Vaughan in Adrian Alfona's original premise like an all-day sucker. After learning the truth about their parents, the kids don't take off immediately. Instead, leading with their varying levels of grief and disbelief, as these highly unusual circumstances force them to become friends again. This gives Schwartz and Savage, well-versed in arcebolity, witty teens, a chance to do what they do best. Depicted the lives of adolescents through winning, biting dialogue. Great party, Alex. Thanks for all the pizza and sadness. Sneers Chase when the group's first social gathering goes awry. Activist Gert and the more polished Caroline snipes at each other, with Gert sarcastically snarking that cause having shiny hair gives you moral authority. A nonplussed Nico shrugs in episode 2, finding out my mom was evil would be the lesser surprising explanation. Alex cloaks it all as delightful banter, an apparent description. The beauty of the Runaways concept is that many teens already thinking their parents are evil supervillains. For these particular teens, that's not a metaphor, which gives their acts of adolescent rebellion tremendous dramatic stakes. Runaways also throws together Breakfast Club-like archetypes, princess, jock, nerd, goth in a blender and delights in how they collide with each other. The most valuable part of the series is how these not yet adults somehow bring the best out of each other as they learn how to survive and create their own virtual family of choice, a bond that's only more effective when it's displayed on a more granular level in the TV show. The series' slower pace is less about survival overall than about surviving high school specifically. Intergalactic conflicts can come later. What if the boys are like stands you up for a Spanish tutorial session, or you're jealous of two girls at a party who start making out without a second thought. There are some hurdles even rapidly developing superpowers can't easily clear. The drawn-out plot also gives the parents a longer role, fleshing out what are relatively limited wrongdoers and placing them on a broader spectrum of good and evil. Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Spike, James Masterson, is inspired casting as Chase's cruel father, Victor Stein. Army wives, Bridget Braun and alias Kevin Wiseman, add some necessary compassion to the roles of Gertrude's time-traveling hippie parents. Carolina's mom and dad aren't just movie stars, but leaders of a pastel-paleted cult. There's one less pair of parents, actually, and an added lost sibling, raising intriguing questions as to how these plot shifts will factor into pre-existing storylines. The true is to its roots. The series is visually accomplished, too. The casting of the kids is spot on. The very first image of the team perfectly mimicking the cover of Runaways #1. Handheld camera helps make it a documentary-style feel of the lighter high school scenes, while the darker shots of the parents' nefarious undertakings unfurl an unsettling, enigmatic mystery set against the backdrop of Pacific Palisades. Yet another link to Schwartz and Savage's past collaborations, as unlikely as it sounds. Even Old Lace the dinosaur fits into Runaways' world as easily as everything else. Meanwhile, Runaways still addresses everyday teen experiences like same-sex attractions, and substance abuse, along criminalities like child abuse to sexual assault. Sometimes the issues that regular youth deal with can be more confusing or scarier than rapidly emerging mutant tendencies or trying to create a bionic hand. The Runaways are figured out, though, what every superhero team does. They're stronger together than apart, and the family that they make with each other is better than the one they already have. It's clear whether they're heading, but this series offers a fascinating and surprising funny path for them to get there. Next is a crazy dystonic series called The Handmaid's Tale. Hulu has aired the first season, and the second season will be aired this April. There is a moment in The Handmaid's Tale, Hulu's adaptation of Margaret Atwood's classic dystopia novel, when June, in the very early days of Insidious sociality takeover by biblically charged militants learns that women will no longer be allowed to own property. This comes after June's bank account has been suddenly frozen by the state, its assets transferred to her husband, and after her and her fellow female co-workers were marched off their jobs at gunpoint. And still, she says with a disbelieving laugh, they just can't do this. They can't. Is there anyone in Pantsuit Nation who hasn't felt, perhaps many times over, like the proverbial frog in the slowly boiling water? In Atwood's 1985 novel, a fundamentalist totalitarian regime has, in the wake of a terrorist attack that wiped out Congress, and in light of an infertility epidemic wrought by environmental devastation, stripped women of their rights and forced the fertile few, like Moses, June, into procreational servitude for powerful couples. The novel has, in recent months, transformed from metaphor to cautionary tale of chilling prophecy in the minds of many women. In March, activists wearing the blood red robes and winged whippets of Atwood's handmaidens ominously gathered in Texas Senate as legislators debated a slew of new anti-abortion bills. Vice President Mike Pence wouldn't dine alone with women who aren't his wife. Donald Trump won the presidential election despite saying on a hot mic that he could do with women's bodies as he wished. God can bring beauty from the ashes. She was warned. Lock her up. The harrowing Hulu adaptation is unexpectedly relevant only for those who haven't been paying attention. As one character warns June, who believes she has already hit rock bottom under the new regime, things can get much worse for you. The Handmaid's Tale, written in the rise of moral majority, is Atwood's best-known work and every bit as chilling as Brave New World and 1984. It has spawned numerous adaptations, including a limp 1990 film, as well as an open opera, a ballet, and earlier this month, a special audible original production with a new afterword by Atwood and new material in the epilogue. The novel is, if anything, a bit too cynical, where the TV series simmers with swallowed rage, flaring in unexpected moments. It is matched by Masa's voiceover, at once biting and wounding, and the show's dreamy veneer-esque cinematography of a small town, placid except for the public hangings and partifications. The steam valve in which the handmaidens are allowed to rip rapists apart with their bare hands. Everyone, even the most powerless, needs someone to demonize. Doesn't that sound familiar? It begs the question both of Trump and of this world. How did we get here? Says Ann Dowd, who plays terrified Lydia of the class of ruthless female enforcers called ants. The underlying thing that is going on, the level of nationalism, the level of profound disappointment for those who felt they've been left behind, This notion of being so sick of things done as they have been done for someone like Trump can actually be president. When Bruce Miller, the show's creator and longtime fan of the book, started writing the series, it was primary season, and while he never imagined Trump would win the election, the grassroots support he stoked with his no holds bar remarks helped shape the adaptation he tells. The thing that affects me the most was being able to hear people have very frank, sometimes very ugly discussions, to be able to hear those conversations so loud that I would actually start to at least understand how the people will very different opinions than mine express those opinions. The adaptation is still largely told from the very limited and sheltered perspective of June, now called Offred, literally belonging to Fred, her commander in the new Republic of Gilead. But the series does offer more string to other characters, and in doing so creates an even richer, if more depressing world. There's more to the story of Offglend, another handmaiden and secret gender traitor, aka lesbian, and in a twist new to the adaptation, even she, the most woke of the handmaidens, is blindsided by a hitherto unthinkable atrocity. One of the most effective changes is significantly aging down the character of Serena Joy, the commander's barren wife. It takes her anger over Offred's failure to conceive more understandable, and the humiliation of the bedding ritual in which Offred lays in Serena's Joy's lap while the commander does his business even more charged. It also elaborates on another fascinating aspect of the character. She was once an activist for traditional values, an Anita Bryant type, but now her powerful husband casually disregards her advice. As Atwood writes in the book, how furious she must be now that she's taken at her word. Gilead's willing executioner also includes Darwood's Lydia. She is a true devotee of the regime, perhaps because she actually wields a degree of power, and yet she too bristles under the male power structure. Atwood's spare narrative is haunting in the horrors it only hints at. The Hulu adaptation is 10 episodes. The narrative is more fully fleshed out and obviously more visceral, but it still leaves a lot to the imagination, which in itself can be lesson for those anxious about the current political climate. How far is America from Gilead? Wonders Madeline Brewer, the Pittman native who plays Janine, a fellow handmaiden who unravels under her re-education. It makes the viewer think, I need to stay awake. I need to stay very awake. Next is Future Man, which is a fun sci-fi time-traveling comedy. It has been renewed for a second season. Want to get away? If so, we live in times that are tailor-made for the escapist. devil-may-care comedy of Future Man. Inventive and frequently hilarious, it takes Hulu subscribers on year-spanning trips with a familiar end goal to save the world. But rather than the taut, grim-faced, heroic Jack Bauer, we get the ongoing befuddlement and aspirations of janitor Josh Futterman, played by Josh Hutcherson. His determination is beat a video game called Biotech Wars, leads to his anointment as the savior by a pair of hardcore, elementally violent resistors from the future, Tiger and Wolf. As this particular story line goes, everything happens in Biotech Wars. In fact, it is a real life and very grim scenario that can be averted only by stopping Kronish Laboratories from finding a cure for the herpes affliction, its crusading namesake, Dr. Elias Cornish. This also happens to be hapless Josh's workplace, where he cleans up others' messes by day while otherwise feeding his obsession with defeating the video game he plays incessantly to the point of regularity, wearing out joysticks. Future Man borrows from all kinds of familiar sci-fi hits: The Last Starfighter, The Terminator, Quantum Leap, etc. In addition to Easy Rider and Michael Jackson's Moonwalk among the blasts from the past. Easy Rider, yes, in the first episode, which began streaming on November 14th. Josh, Tiger, Wolf use a short on-fuel time-traveling device for a trip to 1969 in hopes to stop Elias Cornish from contracting herpes via a girl he met at a moon landing theme college frat party. But before that, they encountered a biker gang that includes members in Easy Rider garb. Violence ensues and costume changes are needed, and it's a sublime sight gag when Josh, Tiger, and Wolf end up as the characters played by Jack Nicholson's Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda. It also should be noted that Hulu is going against the grain of its usual streaming regime by making Season 1's 13 half-hour episodes of Future Man available all at once instead of in weekly doses. Co-executive producer Seth Rogen answering a question from a website at last summer's Television Critic Association press tour says this is something he and his creative team insisted on. When something is kind of plot driven, I personally like to watch it in big chunks, Rogan said. And I like interesting TV series that have cliffhangers and episodes. It's nice to have the next one available to you immediately so you don't have to wait. Because who wants to wait for things? The world could end. It really was an appalling thing to us, and we pushed very hard. Viewers' brains won't be unduly taxed by Future Man, which successfully plays its coarse language and graphic violence mostly for laughs in the mode of Ash and the Evil Dead. Episodes subtitles include Herpes Fully Loaded and Fuel's Aaron and A Blowjobs Before Dying. Hulu made the first 7 available for viewing, and they all go down easily. Future Man's occasionally returns to the future man's household where Josh has been living in LA with his parents, Gabe and Diane. Begley Jr. does a nice turn in episode 5, teaching Warrior Wolf how to cook with sometimes startling results, as when his pupils beats the eggs by literally beating the eggs. This half hour, just desserts, otherwise, is built around the annual holiday Cornish ball, where up until now, each and every lab employee has been required to eat a small gourmet chocolate ball during the climactic toast. At last, the demonic Dr. Stu Camillo has ended this tradition to punish the goodly Eliza's Cornish for giving away the lab's disease-fighting secrets for the good of the world. But the balls must bounce back for Tiger and Wolf to identify and kill the biotics among them. This is all a great deal of crazed fun, but episode 7, so far, is the masterpiece. Not to give away too much, but it involves the rating of director James Cameron's lavishly appointed home, Criteria 2023, in search for a crucial fuel needed for further time travel. Cameron's out of the house at the moment, but his super high-tech watchdog named Sigourney is very much present in voice and vigilance. She's been programmed to various touts Cameron as undefeating little league coach, or teller than average, or cerebral inventor, while Steven Spielberg is referenced at one point as less talented. Laughing out loud won't be an option. It will be a virtual certainty. Comedy adventure of this sort is tough to pull off, as Fox's The Orville has shown in its off-balance first season, but Future Man has a firm grasp of what it is and where it's going. Coop and Wilson excel as goal-fixating warriors from the future without any social graces, while Hutcherson shines as a noobish who both talks them down and strives to keep their own heart from beating off the charts. Emboldened to look ahead, I'm predicting a good time for all. Well, my friends, this brings us to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed everything and will get a chance to check out the things I reviewed for you, and I hope you return for even more reviews next week. I would like to thank MS&Me Radio and my listeners for giving me the opportunity to share my passions with you. Good night, and always remember, you're more than your MS.